Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is the Community Pod, and I am your host, Lester Class. Each and every episode is going to be filled with amazing stories from amazing people. You will hear the different journeys people went through, or are still going through, to be able to do what they love. From the failures to the successes and everything in between. This is a place to get to know the person behind their passion, because people only get to see the successes and not what it took to get there. If this is your first time tuning in, please subscribe and leave a review if you love the content. Now finally, I would love to welcome you to the Community Pod.
What's going on, everyone? This is the Community Pod. Thank you for coming back to another episode. I just want to say, like I said, I got an amazing guest in the building. I just want to say thank you, Dzeey. Right, that's how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir.
All right, Dzeey. I want to say I appreciate you for coming and giving me your time.
No doubt, my guy.
Okay, so basically what we just start off with is basically, where is it that you're from?
Patterson, New Jersey. It's not, not far from, about like an hour drive from here.
Got you. Okay. And before we go on to get into your story, right, would you be able to tell the people what it is that you do?
I call myself an artist. You listen to my music, mainly maybe rap, but I don't really see myself as more of a rapper. I view myself as an artist because, everything I put, a lot of passion into it.
Okay.
To me, it's just more than just rapping. So I would consider myself an artist.
Got you. Okay, cool. So to get into yourself, the young version of you that lived in Patterson, what was life like growing up for yourself?
I mean, up until I was like 11, I was like a single child.
Okay.
So it was really just me and my mom's. My mom had me like young. She had me like 19, so it was really just me and her for the majority of it. We lived in like just a small like apartment building. My dad wasn't really around like that, so it was really, I just had to fend for myself. So my mom did the best she could, but whatever she couldn't do, I either, I learned some lessons from watching, Will Smith on Fresh Prince.
Okay.
So, that was kind of, Uncle Phil, that was kind of like my role model.
Okay.
Even though it was like an older show, that's always been something around me, because, it's nostalgic. My mom used to put me on like to all like the old stuff, music, movies, all that. So, that's really just how life was. It was more of just like a trial and error period, really.
Gotcha.
Whatever my mom, most of the things I know, majority of it comes from my mom, but anything else I obtained just living life, trial and error, really.
Got you. Well, I got to say that Will, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is a classic. And I think that there's like people even younger than us that probably watch it. And if they don't, they're missing out on a lot because it's probably one of the best shows.
No, definitely.
So to get into like a little bit more into your childhood, right? You mentioned there was a trial and error. Why is it that you call it that?
Because, there were just certain lessons in life that, that some people may have, had someone to talk to or to ask for guidance. And I didn't necessarily have that outlet, so I had to, actually go through it, whatever it may be, fail, just learn from that, and then just try again no matter what it is.
Exactly.
So that's mainly how I can describe it.
Got you. So when we get into you as an artist, right, where is it that you found your passion for making music?
A lot of me as an artist stems from, my background. So, my mom, my grandmother, like the hip-hop and the R&B, most of that came from, my mom. But, like, all the classics, like the Isleys, the Etta James, Sam Cooke, Marvin Gaye, all that came from my grandmother. So, I come from, like, a musical family,
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother used to sing in church when she was younger. My mother actually went to a performing arts high school, and she was in the choir and stuff. One of my uncles, he's more of like, he does, rock music,
Okay.
stuff like that. And then I had another uncle who initially introduced me to the concept of rapping.
Okay.
My mother introduced me to the hip-hop genre, but my uncle really shined light on me to rap.
Okay.
But it wasn't truly until maybe I hit like puberty to where I really started to take a liking to it.
Got you. So I have to mention you mentioned your mother.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that you mentioned she's a single mother. Also that your grandma was a big influence in your life. What is it like having such strong women in your life and pushing you to do what you love?
You know, honestly, it teaches. It's more of like a inner growth kind of experience. You know, growing up around women, it made me, you know, caring to the fact. You know, it made me get more in touch with myself.
Yeah.
You know, to just coming to terms with my emotions and all that. So, you know, I really feel like it's helped me with a good foundation. They taught me the basic things that I need, you know, what you're supposed to do, education, you know, get your money, take care of your family, and, you know, just take care of yourself in any way possible. So I really owe everything to them, really.
Got you. And you mentioned that you want to help and be there and take care of your family. Why is it so important for you to do that?
Family is everything to me, you know. You know, on top of, you know, it's just more of my home values, like what I grew up on. There's a quote that I live by, you know, Vito Corleone from The Godfather. He said, a man can never be, if a man doesn't spend time with his family, he can never really be a man. So that kind of stuck with me. So no matter what I do, I always try to make sure that I set some time aside in my life for my family. So that's really it. And, you know, music has definitely helped a lot. You know, seeing them support me, it did a lot. So my family's like my everything for me.
Got you. And I feel like it's like I can relate to that when it comes to the fact that like family is everything to me. And when you spend that time with them and you're able to be there for them, and I feel like also when you're the son of a single mother, right? It is so important to like want to do for them, or like it's just installed in us that they've done so much for us. It's only right that we give back.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to mention that, but to continue on, like, where is it that you feel like you found this the sound that you have when it comes to making music?
That is, you know, that's definitely based around my influences. You know, I think I don't remember the first rap song that I ever heard. The earliest memory is More Money, More Problems by Biggie and Bad Boy. Whenever I think about that song, it just takes me back to, you know, being small, riding around in the city during the summertime with my cousins and stuff. But, you know, I didn't really find, you know, my real sound until, you know, like I said, puberty. That's when I'm not sure, it was around when Take Care. Take Care came out. That was really what stuck with me. And that honestly made me, you know, like a Drake fan. So, you know, I feel like that's definitely one of my, you know, influences a lot. But a lot of my influence comes from, you know, just living life and just listening to different sounds. I'm a fan of music first and foremost.
Yeah.
I love all kinds of music, but that's definitely where, you know, I feel like my sound has come from. I take from everything, all of my experiences in life, not just, you know, him, but it's more like a lot of artists that I enjoyed listening to growing up. Not necessarily just hip hop, but and also R&B as well. I try to implement that into my sound as well, because, you know, even though I make hip hop themed music, R&B is really what I love the most.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
So I have to say, right, that I've took time to listen to your music.
No, I appreciate that, bro.
Of course. And that's one thing I try to do. I do as much possible research as I possibly can on the individual. And I think that you're a great artist. I think that you have a great potential. I think that you're gonna go a long way, right?
Thank you.
I do have to, one tip that I do want to give you, right? You mentioned off camera that you were doing this for 3 years. I think that one thing that you should implement is marketing yourself like crazy, because when I go to your IG, right, I know you're an artist because you told me you're an artist, right? I want to see that. I want to see you doing everything you possibly can to push this out there. And when people go and watch this video, they're going to know what I'm talking about. They're going to be like, dude, this guy's legit. He's doing what he's doing. He's an artist. You're talented at it. I want you to show the world that too.
Thank you. I'll definitely, you know, take that into.
Of course. And I mean that, and I truly mean that out of all the love possible, because you are great at what you do.
I appreciate that.
Honestly.
Appreciate that.
And I think that sometimes it's hard sometimes some people can give you advice, but they don't understand how hard it is to do those things. You know what I'm saying?
Especially, I feel like, you know, as an independent creator, you know, when you do everything for yourself, it's definitely
a lot. Yeah. And it's time consuming. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But when getting into that, right, like I do want to mention that, like I said, you're a great artist. You're doing great. And what I was going to get into was basically like when we receive things like this, when it comes to like either compliments or things that make you want to do it even more. When you receive comments like those, like comments that are to push you or comments to like just to say, "Oh, your music is amazing." How are those moments feel like?
I mean, it's always good to, receive outside praise for something you spend a lot of time on. I think especially with like music, I know being a creator, you're probably, your hardest critic. I know I am. Like I may listen to, I'm not sure what song you may have listened to, but I'm pretty sure of that song, whatever the verse was, I probably sat there, looked through it maybe like 4 or 5 times. I may have started it on a Monday, and I may have not finished it till maybe like a week later. But that's just all because I'm debating over bars. My creative process is really odd. It may take me maybe like 3 hours for one line, or maybe sometimes even 10 minutes for a verse. It depends really what it is, but that's definitely,
Do you feel like everyone takes a bit of creativity in whatever they do?
Of course, I feel like with a sense of, I feel like, in my opinion, creativity is like an imprint of self in a way, if that makes sense. I feel like, even though some creatives may share a few similarities, no creative is the same. Pharrell said it in like an interview, creativity isn't something that comes from you, it flows through you. Creativity comes from the universe. And, sometimes, that made sense to me because there'd be times where I'd be writing and, let's say I finished one song maybe last month.
Yep.
And during the process of that song, it took me maybe 4 weeks to finish the whole song. And then I start a new song maybe today and I finish that song in 2 days.
Yep.
It's just, how the energies are. It's not necessarily on you. It's just sometimes you have to live in order to, give your art substance.
Exactly. And I feel like if the only way to be successful in anything that you do is I want to say experience it and understand that it's all about a process. Like
Most definitely.
How can you make for example, you as an artist, how can you make a song about a certain topic that you never experienced like that? You know what I mean? That's like someone talking about or trying to relate to you and they never gone through what you've gone through.
Right.
So when it comes to being an artist, where do you feel like you get all your creativity from?
It took, I view everything I've ever made, I view it in chapters. There's chapters in my life. I put it, even from my cover art, like from my earlier cover art, I had a consistent theme. I'd drop a few singles with a theme, like the photo itself may be different. But let's say, for example, for a visual, it's a white border around it. The white border may represent a time of my life. For me, it may not it may resonate for some people who listen, but I know for me, I will remember exactly what point of my life I was in based off how the cover looks.
Exactly.
So that's really how I get it. It's just more life experiences. I use my music as a way to dictate certain pinpoints in my life, but that's really where I draw most of my topics from, just life experiences, really.
Got you.
But it took me a while to get here.
No, yeah. And when you're doing something like this, I feel like also when you're doing something that's on your own and you're pursuing your passion, you have to understand that you have to grow and evolve. You can't stay consistent with whatever you're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Consistency is important when you're pushing out your material, but when it comes to when I mean by consistency, I mean basically stagnant, or complacent, where you're not moving anywhere, that you said, I'm an artist, I'm going to make the same type of music every single time, and people are going to love it. It's not going to happen all the time.
Yeah, that's definitely, something, that was more of something I had to tell myself. One thing for me, I always try to reinvent myself, whether it's every new project or every new song, I always try to outdo it. But I do know, I've incorporated in my creative process, I go through my entire discography, from first song to most recent, even the unreleased. Whether it's before I'm writing the song, while I'm writing the song, or after, I always try to do that to make sure, obviously to don't repeat anything, because I always like to keep things fresh because my imagination is running 24/7.
Yeah.
So that's really just what I try to do. Every song and every project, I just try to reinvent myself, try to make myself do better, because I know the only person that's better than me is me, you know what I mean? So why not? I feel like that's just generally how I do it. Every
Exactly.
song just better. I make it better than the last. And it may be seem like high standards, but that's just what I expect from myself. I know what kind of artist I am and what kind of stuff I could put out.
Exactly.
So I always want to put my best foot forward.
Exactly. And then I feel like what's also something that's very like prevalent in the music industry has got to be using your imagination. And
Most definitely.
Exactly. So why is it? Why do you feel like using your imagination in music or anything that you do is important?
Because nowadays in the music game, you can find maybe 2 or 3 artists that may sound the same, maybe more. I always feel like being different, it goes back to what I was saying about creativity and uniqueness. It creates an important stamp in life. You remember Eminem for the wild, crazy bars. You remember, Biggie from his voice. They're creatives and that's their imprint. Emmett's his crazy flows and his wild punchlines. Biggs is the smoothness in his bars and ODB. Just how raspy and raw and gritty his voice was. It's just I always feel like people remember the outcasts more than those who follow the norms in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, that's always been my thing. I try to, just always be different.
So what do you feel like is your stamp?
It's just, I feel like it's my lyrical ability. Every song I write, I used to write poetry when I was younger.
Okay.
So every time, I just try to make it sound as beautiful as possible. In all my songs, whether it's, I always view it as my process is is different. I may write it, and then being in the studio is different. Being in the studio is like I go into hyperdrive. Like some of the songs, like majority of my songs, like if you listen to them in the studio, that's not initially how I wrote them. Like I originally wrote them to say it one way, but all the extra stuff that just comes into the studio. That's also I feel like that's my stamp. Hopefully, just how elegantly my songs come about.
Exactly, and I can definitely, how do I say this? I can definitely, I guess, agree on you on that point because I do think that's what your music represents, and it's very like, I want to use the word smooth, where like everything feels like it flows very well together.
Thank you.
Of course. So to get into like just you as an individual, do you feel like, well, you started 3 years ago, right? So you were 17 when you started about there?
16 turning 17.
16 turning 17. So you started making music in high school.
Oh yeah, it was around my my senior year, which is actually funny about it. I had I had like planned on making music for a while, but you know how like it was more I call it like the pre-production stage. Like what I'm about, what kind of music do I want to make, or that was that period in my life. That was maybe like 14 into my going into 16. That was just more like also me finding myself, who I want to be with this, and it just that's really the best way I could.
Like I have to ask, right? You mentioned finding yourself, right? Was that something that you feel like I believe you mentioned that music kind of did that for you, where you found yourself through music, right? When music wasn't like a route that you believed that you were going to take, how did you feel in that moment?
It was just like, it was just how, honestly, to be honest, I don't really know myself before finding this.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and a big part of it, music kind of saved my life in a way. So I owe it to that. It's only right. This saved my life. So why not put my 110% into this?
And when you say save your life, if you're okay with getting into it, well, why do you feel like music saved your life?
My psychiatrist had diagnosed me, just mild episodic depression.
Okay.
I get into those moods, and it was definitely during, my early adolescence. It was like the really hardest point in my life, and just finding this helped me come to terms with like who I am as an individual and what I'm really about.
Yeah.
So, like, I talk to my dogs about this all the time. Like, they know when I break it down like this, I always viewed myself as two people. Before there was Daejeon and then there was Dzeey. But, like, as I go along with my music career, it's, it's becoming from two individuals into, one.
Yeah.
That way. And music kind of gives me a sense of security in that kind of way.
Got you.
So, in all nothing else, I know that I'm a good artist and, regardless of the doubt.
Well, do you feel like when it comes, because like you mentioned, you were diagnosed with I remember the depression, but what was the first part? I'm sorry.
Just moderate episodic depression. So, you know, it comes in waves, but
Okay.
when the waves hit,
It's a lot.
yeah, but I get through it.
Yeah,
I got
exactly.
a good support system around me, you know, good therapist, you know, just mental health is important. You got to take care of yourself.
So I actually want to ask you if there was any advice that you would give that to somebody that's going through depression of any kind or dealing with a lot in that moment or any moment in time. What advice would you give them?
It's only dark for a few hours of the day. You know what I mean? You got to view it as that, you know. I know you know it may you be at the bottom of the lows, but when you hit rock bottom, there's really no other way to go but up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, even to those who, you know, are struggling way worse than others, like, there's people that care. Even though I know it may feel like no one really cares or, you know, you don't really mean anything. It's like, it's never the case. There's always somebody. You know what I mean? I'm not sure where I heard the quote, but, you know, it was like, I would rather you cry on my shoulder than cry at your funeral. I'm probably misquoting it, but it was something around that ballpark. And that's really, you know, I always try to, even if it's people I don't know, you know what I mean? Because life is precious in a way. You know what I mean? And we only have one life. And, you know, there was something, I'm not sure if it was like from movies or anything, but I'm trying to remember exactly. It was something along the lines of someone tried to, you know, like when you're drowning, for example, you know, if you're feeling down, when you're drowning, you automatically kick up to get to the surface. You got to view it as there's not like, for example, you don't want to kill yourself. There's something inside you that you don't want there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's never just, there's never, you know, because the clinical term, you know, it's like a chemical imbalance in the brain or something. So it's just, you know, it's always sunny. You know what I mean? You just got to keep pushing to see a brighter day. There's always brighter days. You know what I mean? You know, because I know for a fact, you know, sometimes when I'm feeling down, I just go outside, look up at the sun, and, you know, just, you know, be calm with nature, and that boosts my mood a little bit.
Exactly.
So one step at a time, that's really it.
Got you. And I do want to say that I like that you mentioned that, but I did research back in college. And I found it crazy. That
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I seen you recently graduated, by the way, so congratulations.
I appreciate that. But I did research in college, and it shocked me that I found out, like, while I did the research, that people that say, and I don't want to say the word, but when people don't want to be here or they want to commit something, right? I don't want to say the word, but when they want to commit something, they actually don't. If that makes sense, we're like them doing the action is not because they want to do it; it's just because they don't want to feel anymore. So it's not that this is what they want to do, but it is the only thing they feel would stop this pain. And I always found that crazy because it's not something that a lot of people think about. People just think that people do it and that's what they want. It's not what they want. It's what stops them to feeling that way. That
is one thing that I would really wish, like, you know, the people, you know, stigma around, you know, people who do that. It's more than likely, you know, I see, you know, for example, you know, sometimes it's parents or whoever, and they think, oh, what about the kids or what about so-and-so? It's not like they chose, you know what I mean? It's just that was the only option they felt that they had, you know what I mean? So it's sad. Sympathize it, you know what I mean? You just got to be there for people. You know, you always got to check on your strong friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you know, that word comes in all shapes and sizes. You know what I mean? You could be the happiest person, you could be the saddest person. And, you know, sometimes those happiest, like you said, are the ones going through it because they're hiding it. But you really have to sit down and understand that. I did that research, and I hope people understand that where these people don't want to do this, it's the fact that they feel like it's the only way. And that's the sad part about it. Like, I do believe, like you said, mental health is important. And I actually wanted to ask you, why do you feel like mental health is important?
Especially in the black community, it's something I witnessed firsthand. You know what I mean? You know, I don't mean, you know, all, but like when in reference to the black community, I don't mean, you know, all. But there are, you know, some people in the black community who are quick to dismiss something as being crazy or when, no, most people, like, you know, I grew up I grew up, by the towers and Patterson, Presidential Boulevard. Most of the people, it's PTSD in the communities, but we're not, familiar with the term.
Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
When people hear that term, mostly, I'm pretty sure most people's minds go to, the military and stuff. But no, PTSD can come from almost anything traumatic.
Exactly.
And, growing up, in the slums where, we didn't see a lot of, government assistance. Most of the people were on government assistance, but it wasn't like we had the best hands from the government. It was more just like a backhanded thing. So
exactly.
a lot of people there are seeing things that they shouldn't have had to see, especially at younger ages, and that kind of sticks with them, and it makes them a certain way. But because of that way, people are quick to dismiss it as, oh, you being crazy, this, that, and the third. Like, nah, just sit them down and talk to them. You know what I mean? But I feel like it's important, especially, in the black community, because that's not something they take serious.
Exactly.
Even now, thankfully, as, the years have gone on, it's gotten more attention, and a lot of more people in the community have begun to speak up. But there's a lot of people, who don't, or afraid to speak up, or who just dismiss it as,
exactly.
C word. But I just feel like that's important, especially from our people. We got the short end of the stick when it comes to, just being in the country. Generations of that, builds up.
Mm-hmm.
It creates this and instills this. I recently learned that sometimes trauma can be hereditary.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like some it can be hereditary, like some fears and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And it's sad that like you said, there's communities out there that just don't take this seriously.
Yeah, and that's, and this has been, it's not something that's, new.
Mm-hmm. People have been dealing with this for years, but like you said, they're scared to talk about it.
Technology advances, we're able to find new information.
And then if you look at, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No problem.
But if you look at, I feel like with men,
definitely, it's
a lot harder for people to understand that you're going through a lot, and that's why men are so. That's why the I don't want to say the stigma, but the idea of a man is a man who doesn't express his emotions. At least it was, years before. I feel like now it's okay to open up. But when you look at fathers or uncles or anybody that's a male figure in your family, they tell you to push those feelings to the side and understand that the men don't talk about it. You keep it in, you go cry behind closed doors, and you come out like nothing happened. But it's so important, especially for men. And any man that's listening out there, I do feel like it's okay to cry. It's okay to express your emotions to the people that you love and that love you. There's certain people you shouldn't be expressing your emotions to, and I think that goes for everybody. But if you're dealing with stuff, go to the right people. Go to the people that care.
Yeah, one thing that's definitely, I'm not afraid to, say that I've been the kind of person, maybe, in some cases still am the type of person to just, build stuff up. But that's just how I grew, you know what I mean? And it's no one, it's not necessarily, there's no one really to put the blame on, but that's just sometimes how things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's just one thing I hope with my music is just people, one thing that will resonate with people is it's okay to feel emotions. We human. That's the one thing that makes us human. You know what I mean? Intelligence can be passed on. Obviously you see it in machines, but one thing you can't replicate is emotion.
Yep.
So I just hope, when people listen to our music, they feel something.
Exactly.
No matter what it is, whether it's heartbreak, joy, sadness, anger. As long as it makes you feel something, I feel like I did my job partially as an artist.
And I feel like one person, in particular, who has been able to bring out the emotion of men in particular is, I want to say, Rod Wave. Where he kind of
Definitely
normalized damn, I'm going through a lot. Let me listen to Rod right now. You know what I mean?
And that's why I feel like Rod's so popular, because a lot of people in the trenches or where we come from feel that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said the PTSD. He all that's in his music, and that's what I generally love about his music. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie. It took me a while to get onto the wave, but. No pun intended.
No
but it took me a while, but I'm glad that I did find the music. It did help.
It does.
And that's generally, I feel like that's what the goal is. Mm-hmm. And I just love raw music. It's definitely help. I know it talked to the people.
Exactly.
100%.
It like you said, it relates, and it's something that, because if you look at, and this is in reality, I don't want to go too much into him, right? Pause. But I don't want to go too much into the information when it comes to him. The fact of the matter is that if you look at Rod Wave compared to other artists glorify that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Where like this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, like to keep going on and all that. Rod Wave doesn't glorify it. He has accepted it, understands it, and understands that, damn, how can I express this through my music so that other people can understand that you're not the only one going through it? Because especially men living in areas where there's poverty, or they're going through a lot, or they have they're living a lifestyle that they felt like their environment created. If you really look into it, Rod Wave speaks about all of that, and I feel like he's done a great job with that. But other than that, I really don't want to get too much into him because you're my guest, where he isn't. But to continue on, like, I have to say, like I said before, you're able to create art through your lyrics. I think that you depict an image by saying the words that you say.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of
That's
course.
always, the way in my own lingo, I always try to lace my lyrics.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I always try to lace it, with some type of, no matter what it is, whether it's a cadence, whether it's a lyric that just makes you go, hold up, wait a minute.
Let me rewind.
Always rewind. Whether it's a note,
Mm-hmm.
or you just like the way I hit, a certain note or something like that. I always just try to make something stand out. But I definitely try to quote my bars. I always try to think the way I view it as like, what if we in a lyrical contest? That's just how I view it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can I make something crazy?
How can I up one the next guy? Not even how can I up one myself?
That's
at that
what
point?
I mean. Yeah, there's I have those moments, where I'll be writing. I'll be like, ooh, that's hard. I know one of the favorite things I've written was a verse I did, and a song. I did my version of like the Lemon Pepper Freestyle by Dzeey.
Okay.
There's I did a whole entire bar based off gambling in Vegas. That was kind of my favorite part.
Okay.
That was my favorite thing. I think it was like I don't even remember how it went. That's crazy.
If you ever remember, okay, go ahead.
It was something. It was related to cards. It
Okay.
was just a play on cards. It was like my castle too stable. So something about kings too stable. Castle don't buy in a favor. Something like that. But that was just my favorite because that was also one of the real life moments. Because at the time I was working on that song,
Yeah.
I had just binge watched all the Oceans. All the Oceans, 11s, 12s,
Okay.
all that. And that was actually the first time I realized, like, oh shit, life is you can actually implement basic things into art.
Mm-hmm.
You can turn the basic things into art, like even watching a movie. So that's just one of the moments I had where it's just like, like lyrical lacing. That's what I call it. Like
Gotcha.
lyrical lacing. That's just how I do it. And when it comes to rapping,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my favorite things. Like
Gotcha.
every song I put out was rap. You know what I mean? If it's not a feature, then I write it.
Gotcha. And I want to get into so I want to ask this question just because I feel like within the 3 years that you've been making music, I feel like there's also so much more that you want to do as well.
Of course.
Like you always want to grow as an artist. Like I said, like we spoke about before, growth. But is there anything that you haven't done yet that you just can't wait to do when it comes to being an artist?
I haven't written for someone else.
Okay.
Like, I would love to write for someone else. Like, on the way over, I was playing the Unthinkable record, by Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
Drake wrote that record.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Drake had wrote that record. And that was always something I wanted to do because, all the time you hear about people writing for other artists and reference tracks.
Yep.
I always imagine myself like, what if I just wrote a song and, just writing a song and the next thing you know, trying to think, Ye here or Ye like the song or, just artists or, even writing a song. One thing I want to do for sure is definitely write a song for like a female R&B artist.
That's awesome.
Like, envision maybe for like Snow or Rihanna, or just writing for someone. That's just one thing I want to do as like an artist.
Do you feel like that's your favorite aspect, writing?
Yeah, I've always writing in every sense. It's not just music, Writing has always been like a part of me. Like my mom had me on calligraphy books when I was like 6 years
Okay.
old. So writing has always been part of me, and I use it, as an outlet. I write everything. I have like my own journal. When I can't, if it's like a gap between my therapy, I just write in my journal, and it actually does help. Journal, poetry, scripts, all that. It's just writing.
Got you. So we are getting close to the end. Do you believe that it went by fast?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do want to get into the more deep questions when it comes to yourself, as well as advice that you would want to give in these situations, right? So first I want to go up. So what is it that motivates you to do what you're doing?
You want like the real answer, like
the real answer,
the artisty answer.
I want the answer that, what is it that wakes you up every morning? What is it that drives you to do what you're doing?
Obviously my family, but I also do this, just to save myself, really. Like, it's done so much for me, already.
Yeah.
And I've barely scratched the surface, I hardly even broke through to the industry, and it's already have saved me so much. That's why, it's really just that, just to change the lives of my family. But those are the main two reasons, to save myself and to save my family. All that other stuff is good, the awards, accolades, and all that. I just want to be someone that, generations of, young black kids could just like look up to and be like, you don't need to be, it doesn't matter where you come from. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You could be anything.
Exactly.
You could be anything you want in life, as long as you stay focused and put yourself in the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely something I just want to be. I just want to be like a staple for, just a staple in history.
Got you. And the other question I do want to ask is, if there was anything in this world that you would change to make it better, what would it be?
Like in general?
In general.
Just get rid of ignorance and arrogance, and just people will love each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially in America, racism is like a hard-hitting topic, which is still crazy because it doesn't make sense. There's no such thing as a race. We're all humans. There's a human race. But that's definitely one thing I would change. I just feel like personally, if we all could just look past how foolish and stupid the whole institutionalism of racism is, I feel like this country could grow so much. Look at us. Like, there's nothing. We're just having a simple conversation.
Exactly. It's insane. Like, I believe I said this on another podcast, and I just feel like if we were able to sit down with some of the people that may not like us, you know what I mean, just because of the way we look.
That's what I mean. Like,
they would, like, not that they would understand, but I kind of want to understand, why is it that you don't like me sometimes? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that my skin color, your skin color does to them that affects you so much?
It still fascinates me that there's people, in the world, but especially this country mainly because, we're here, but there's people who can't even, do this.
No.
Like,
they can't have a simple conversation because of the way you look.
Like, I don't know your background, but it's obviously not clear to see that there's people who wouldn't even like condone this conversation we're doing, is sitting on the couch and talking. That's just honestly crazy because we bleed the same color.
Exactly.
We all bleed red. At the end of the day, we all go.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
We have one life. We all we're not here for the same amount of time, but we're all here at the same time.
That's what I mean. It don't matter what color we is or what we look like. We all go to the same, at some point we all gotta, we reach the end of our rope.
Exactly.
That's one thing that everyone has in common.
Exactly. And if you really look at it, right, me and you, like, well, my background, I'm Hispanic. I'm Spanish. But if you look at it, right, people like you and me, right, who don't see color, but, souls and people that occupy these bodies. If you really look at it, I have no problem going to talk to somebody in a different country. I don't care if I don't know your language. Like, I'm that open where it's just like, okay, I want to, like, I want to travel everywhere. I want to go to Vietnam. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to speak their language or anything like that, but I would love to go. I don't have a problem learning either. There's people out there that would genuinely be like, yeah, I'm not going just because it's Vietnam.
I love people, like, in general. Like, the one thing I love about humanity is just how fascinating it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, walks of life. Like, even some of the feats is possible. Like, how does someone come up with the idea of, let's fly, let's build a metal thing with that can transport humans? Like, the idea of humanity is honestly amazing. Like, that's what, I just love, humanity in general.
And the reason I love doing this podcast so much is because I get to meet so many different individuals, because none of you guys or women come on this podcast and are the same. You guys have different stories, different outlooks of life, different personalities. It's just so different, and I love that. I love meeting new people. I think that's one thing that makes me so happy doing this. I meet so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and it just allows me to live the true me, which is getting to know everybody from everywhere. I think if it was possible, I would want to meet every single person on this planet, if that was even possible.
I can respect that.
Because there's so many. Like we said, you only live once, and like if I can talk, if there was a possibility, which it's 99% not possible to speak to everybody on this earth, but to be able to connect with people that you don't know is beautiful, because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what life they're looking like. It's just a beautiful thing.
That's the beauty of music. It just brings people together, and I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Exactly.
No matter where, no matter how far along I am, whether it's just doing, 100 place songs or doing 100,000 plus venues, just music is just a beautiful thing.
Yep. So
that's honestly what I love about it.
Exactly. And then I have 2 more questions before we head out. If you could give a message to your future self, what would it be?
Damn.
Yeah.
I've always looked at it from the perspective of talking to my younger self.
Exactly.
But I never thought of like talking to my future self. It's just
like if you could give a message to him, maybe the way that I see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say he's going through a great scenario. He's doing great, or maybe he's in a bad mood and he just needs something. Basically, what would you tell a stranger? But it's going to be yourself at this point.
Hey, just look at life, bro. You breathing. Look at the crib you in. Look at the people you have. Look at the music you've made. That's what keeps me pushing. That's the one thing I'm always fascinated. Just the music, bro. Like just go to the stew, lay some shit down, bro. I guarantee you it's gonna be hard. I don't know what it is, but it's gonna be hard, bro. But that's what I can say, really.
All right. Last but not least, what do you want the world to know about Dzeey?
Truthfully, I'm about to take over whenever I hit. I don't know when it will be, but I promise you, it's going to blindside everybody, especially with the way the game is now. Just call me a prophet, It's going to be fun. That's the best thing I can really say. Just stay tuned. Just, one thing I will say. I don't know. If you listen to my songs, just spark one up before you press play. I promise it will hit 1,000 times better. It's the best thing I can say.
Okay. So the podcast is over. This is your opportunity. The camera is all yours. If there's anything that you want to say, anything that you got going on, anything at all, this is your opportunity.
I want to shout out my dogs, New Money, Glow, Lotus, 100, Bamboy, Dzeey, all y'all, bro. We going up, bro. Just stay tuned. And, to my peoples around me, I love you. Stay positive and smoosh. I love you.
All right, cool. So that is the end of the podcast, Dzeey. I want to say I appreciate you for coming on. I couldn't do this without people like yourself. So thank you so much. I also want to say one thing. I do apologize, and I'm going to say that on camera. I do apologize. We were supposed to get this interview about a few weeks ago, and something came up on my end. So I do want to apologize and let you know that I'm glad I finally got you on.
It's all good. That's just the way the universe works, brother.
Exactly.
I appreciate you for giving me the platform and giving other creatives like myself and artists to speak their truth and, let the world know about them more. So I appreciate that.
Of course, bro. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and do my outro. This is the Community Pod. Thank you so much for being here, Dzeey. Thank you again for allowing me to tell your story through my podcast. If any of you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know your favorite part. Leave a like. Put on post notifications so you never miss a future episode. If you're watching on audio platforms, please leave a review. It allows other people to find my platform. Last but not least, if you are new to the podcast, welcome to the Community Pod. And for anybody that's been able to watch all my episodes or just a few and enjoy my content, there's so much more to come, and I couldn't do it without you. Thank you, and we are out. Peace.
Not a rapper coming this summer.